Hey everyone, welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Alyssa Ashe, and I am so excited and glad to have you guys all here tonight. I've seen you guys building in the chat room, some of our fantastic moderators, Guinevere, Real Frank from Florida, and so many others, and just some regulars, Martin Marbles, Swoosh for Trump, Jameson was back, Deb Santiago. Thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate you guys. And it's been good seeing you guys get ready for the stream. So tonight I'm going to cover a variety of topics. Of course, some political news, state news, world news. I'm going to give you guys an update on last night, the Ride the Ducks boat in Missouri that actually capsized. I'm going to update you guys on that. We're going to talk a little bit about NASA and the Parker Solar Probe, and Baltimore actually putting on a lawsuit blaming oil and gas companies. We're going to talk about Kimberly Guilfoyle leaving Fox News to join the Political Action Committee for President Trump. And we're going to talk about Treasury Secretary Mnuchin watching the Chinese yawn, weakness for manipulation, and then some new accusations against President Trump that came out with his former lawyer Cohen. So we're going to get into all of that. And again, thank you so much just for being here. Yes, I see your comment, Swoosh for Trump, Space Force. I thought you would definitely like that NASA story. So we're going to get into that. But first, I'm going to give you guys just an update on the tragedy that happened last night. So you can see right here, should be coming up in a second. One second, I apologize, guys. It is on its way. Okay, so you can see right here on that Ride the Ducks boat that actually capsized, and there is new information that just came out about family members that were actually on that boat. So there were actually 9 family members that were among the 17 dead, and that number has actually increased to 17. So definitely heartbreaking. I'm going to kind of just give you guys an update on that. So it was actually 9 people in one family that were among the 17 that were killed when this tourist duck boat capsized in Table Rock Lake Thursday night. So this was according to the governor's office, and 2 other members of that family actually survived. So think of just the grief and the pain, you know, that they're experiencing, losing 9 members of their family in one day. So there were 29 passengers and 2 crew members on board, so 31 total on the amphibious craft when it actually plunged into 80 feet of water in the Table Rock Lake near Branson as severe thunderstorms were in the area. It was said that they were about 75 miles per hour. And the boat actually landed upright on its wheels. It kind of slid into the water, slid into the water, and there were children as well among the 17 killed. So definitely heartbreaking. 7 others were injured and 1 seriously injured. And the ages of the victims actually range from 1 to 70 years old, according to the sheriff's office. And 6 patients were admitted to the Cox Medical Center in Branson. And so if you tuned in with us last night, you knew we were on late until midnight just covering this event and giving you the details as we got them, because that is what we do here at Right Side. We share with you breaking news as it's going on. We want to be your primary source of news and information. And, you know, it wasn't released until today. All throughout this morning, it was just so heartbreaking. I was sharing it again and again on Twitter just as the fatalities were rising. So it was extremely heartbreaking. And so a survivor of the tragedy actually spoke out about this. Now, her name is Tia Coleman, and she said, and it just so heartbreaking, but she said, my husband would want me to say this, and she was one who lost 9 of her family members in the accident. And she actually said that the captain of the boat told her family not to worry about life jackets. Anyways, her quote, she said, my husband would want me to say this. He would want the world to know that on this boat we were on, the captain had told us, don't worry about grabbing the life jackets. You won't need them. So nobody grabbed them as we listened to the captain as he told us to stay seated. Absolutely heartbreaking. And then Mayor Karen Best told ABC News, she said, she's the mayor of Branson, of course, where it happened. And she said, we're a community of smiles, but for the last 16, 17, 18 hours, we've been a town of tears and a town of comfort, just making sure that we can give them everything they need. And counselors are on hand to help the survivors cope and also to just be there for the little things. And one counselor actually took a survivor who had wet socks on to the bathroom to help him dry them out. And the mayor, Karen Best, said while they're still investigating, the thing to do is we're keeping our focus on the families. And once again, we're keeping them in our thoughts and our prayers. So like I said, it was severe evening thunderstorms, including winds in excess of, according to ABC News, it says 60 miles per hour, but another source I found last night said 75 miles per hour struck the area at the time of this incident. And I showed you guys video last night just of the boat just taking on water as the waves lashed at all sides. Definitely heartbreaking. And a witness, Tony Burkhart, he said, we saw high winds and bad weather roll in, so I decided to get a refund and leave with my wife. Headed out countless first responders and emergency vehicles were going into Branson to help with the duck boat incident. Branson Bell crew helped toss life preservers to those overboard. And I see your comment, Jameson Carter. Is there any kind of GoFundMe account for the victims or any way we can reach out for help? I am not sure, Jameson, but I'm going to look for you right now because that would be fantastic. Thank you so much for your concern. It is so good to see people come together and to support each other during these painful times. Okay, let's see. It does look like there have been a couple foundations set up to help with this. Yes, there is a website I just found, and this is from Springfield News Leader. So go down to fundraisers, and you will be able to see those donation pages where you can help out. So a couple different sources there, a couple different ways you can donate. I'm going to link it right now. Thank you so much for asking, Jameson, just so that you guys will be able to help support the family of the victims. Absolutely tragic. And of course, if there are any more updates with that story, which I'm not assuming there will be, but if any more information is discovered, stay tuned and I will keep you guys updated. I've been following your comments on YouTube and checking on Facebook as well. So I'll go back and forth throughout the night. And yes, we should be up on Twitter as well. And remember, if you want to interact with me or if you have questions, and since this is a nightly news recap and maybe there's a big news story that happened today that I may have missed, please share it with me. I'll show you my Twitter account right here. It is at Alyssa RSBN. So I love interacting with you guys and talking to you on Twitter. So if you have any questions at all or news stories, like I said, that I may have missed, please feel free to share them with me. And we are going to switch gears a little bit as NASA is preparing to fly their probe into the sun's scorching atmosphere. And this is from Reuters. So switching over, I'm going to pull up a picture of that for you guys. Okay, so this is out of Cape Canaveral, Florida, of course. And so NASA is actually preparing to send a probe closer to the sun than any other spacecraft has ever gone before. And of course, just enduring that wicked heat while it says actually zooming through the solar corona to study the outermost part of the stellar atmosphere that gives rise to solar wind. So you can see this picture here, just as they're working on it, technicians and engineers are actually performing light bar testing on NASA's Parker Solar Probe. And they are in the Astrotech processing facility near NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Titusville, Florida. And this is actually back from June 5th, 2018. So the Parker Solar Probe is actually a robotic spacecraft the size of a small car, and it's set to launch from Cape Canaveral in Florida with August 6th, actually, so right around the corner, set as the launch date for the planned 7-year mission. Now, it is set to actually fly into the sun's corona within 3.8 million miles from the solar surface, 7 times closer than any other spacecraft has ever gone before. Now, Nicola Fox, who is actually a project scientist from Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory, was quoted saying, "To send a probe where you haven't been before is ambitious. To send it into such brutal conditions is highly ambitious." She said this at a news conference today. And I'll scroll down a little bit and show you guys a picture of her speaking there with other NASA officials. So Alex Young, who is a solar scientist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, is in the middle. And then Nicola Fox, who I just mentioned, is at the right. And over on the left is Betsy Cognan, who is a Parker Solar Probe Thermal Protection System Engineer at APL. So they're speaking during this press conference at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And I'll keep that up for a second if you guys want to keep looking at that. And so if you're kind of wondering, what's the background? What is the closest, distance that a probe has gone before to the sun? Well, the previous closest pass to the sun was actually by a probe called the Helios 2. And now that was in 1976, and it came within 27 million miles. And by way of comparison, the average distance from the sun for Earth is 93 million miles. And so the corona gives rise to solar wind, and it's a continuous flow of charged particles that permeates the solar system. So unpredictable solar winds cause disturbances in Earth's magnetic field and can play havoc with communications technology on Earth. And so NASA actually hopes that the findings will allow scientists to forecast and just kind of predict changes in Earth's space environment. So Alex Young, who, like I said, he is pictured right here in the middle, a solar scientist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland. He said, "It's of fundamental importance for us to be able to predict this space weather, much like we predict the weather here on Earth." And he said, in the most extreme cases of these space weather events, it can actually affect our power grids here on Earth. So the project actually has a $1.5 billion price tag, and it's the first major mission under NASA's Living with the Star program. So the probe is actually set to use 7 Venus flybys over nearly 7 years to reduce its orbit around the sun, and also use instruments designed to image the solar wind and study electric and magnetic fields, coronal plasma, and energetic particles. So NASA aims to collect data about the inner workings of the highly magnetized corona. So the probe was actually named after American solar astrophysicist Eugene Newman Parker, and it will definitely have to survive very, very intense and difficult heat and radiation conditions. And it's been actually outfitted with a heat shield designed to keep its instruments at a tolerable 85 degrees Fahrenheit, 29 degrees Celsius, even as it faces temperatures reaching nearly 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit at its closest pass. So that is very interesting, and I'll just show you guys the probe one more time before we move on, and it'll be very interesting and exciting to keep up with this story come August 6th. So also kind of an update, I think this is a story that I actually shared with you guys a few days ago, but an update is published today about the city of Baltimore actually filing a lawsuit, and it was actually today, against 26 oil and gas companies and entities, including BP, Chevron, and Exxon, for knowingly contributing to what the city has called catastrophic consequences of climate change. And this is from Reuters as well. So, this just came out today, and it was actually the latest in just a string of cases attempting to hold oil and gas companies responsible for climate change caused by carbon emissions from burning fossil fuels. It came a day after a U.S. District Court judge dismissed a similar suit by New York City, and he actually said in his ruling that climate change must be addressed through federal regulation and foreign policy because climate change is a global problem. So Baltimore, just because of its location, it's vulnerable to any rise in sea level because it has 60 miles of coastline, and it's one of the country's largest ports. And this points to research linking oil and gas production with rising sea levels. So the lawsuit was actually filed in the Baltimore Circuit Court, And it says Baltimore has been impacted by sea level rise and climate change, leading to property damage, economic injuries, and impacts to public health. And it says the Baltimore area has suffered two 1,000-year storms within 3 years. So this lawsuit is accusing oil and gas companies of having knowledge about just a link between the climate change and fossil fuel production for up to 50 years, yet working to hide the dangers and protect their assets rather than minimize the damage. So the complaint seeks unspecified damages, penalties, and relief. And the city solicitor, Andre Davis, said in a statement, "These oil and gas companies could have warned us. They could have taken steps to minimize or avoid the damage. In fact, they had a responsibility to do both, but they didn't, and that's why we're taking them to court." So among those named as defendants are ConocoPhillips, Royal Dutch Shell plc, Phillips 66, Marathon Oil Corporation, CNX Resources Corp., Hess Corp., and Consul Energy Inc. And the spokesperson for Shell and Chevron said that the companies actually support efforts to address climate change or limit global warming, but those initiatives should be addressed outside of lawsuits. And spokesman Chris Smith of Shell said in an email, "We believe climate change is a complex societal challenge that should be addressed through governmental policy and cultural change, not by the courts." And a Phillips 66 spokesman refused to comment, and a CNX Resources spokesman said that the company had not been served, so was unable to comment. And spokespeople for the other oil companies were not immediately available to comment. So also a world update, citing the lack of progress, Secretary to Myanmar's Rohingya panel actually quit. So the Thai secretary to an international panel set up by Myanmar to advise on the Rohingya crisis quit his post, which dealt with another blow to the credibility of a body meant to demonstrate the government's commitment to resolving the issue. And explaining his decision to Kobsak Chutikul, sorry, I want to say that right, who is actually a retired ambassador and a former member of Thailand's parliament, told Reuters the panel of foreign and local experts, which met for the third time in the capital, Naita, this week, said it had been kept on a short leash and achieved little in the 6 months since its formation in January. And I want to try just to pull up a picture of this for you guys. It's at the Katuyupalong refugee camp. So you can see just a picture there of the refugee camp. So explaining his decision to Kobsak Chutil, like I said, the retired ambassador and former member of Thailand's parliament told Reuters that it had been kept on a short leash and achieved little in the 6 months since its formation in January. And side note, we just got a $10 donation from Gregory Ashe, my dad. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And he said, see you tomorrow. He is coming to visit. And so I am very thankful for that. Thanks, Dad, and can't wait to see you. So moving on, the panel was set up by the Myanmar government. And the purpose, it was supposed to advise it on how to implement the recommendations of an earlier commission headed by former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan on solving the crisis in its Western Rakhine, which has been just full of tension, ethnic and religious tension for years. Kobsak said the panel had been stopped from taking in international funding or just holding a permanent office, and it was actually told to hold their meetings online, which of course would have been a lot more difficult. And he said that representatives of the army have refused to meet the board, and a military spokesman did not respond to calls seeking comment. And he said, well, what are they doing? Having lavish dinners in the capital and this and that, flying around. The danger now is that it's going to divert attention from the issues, give a false impression that things are being done. And Chef Maga asking, who are these refugees? These are Rohingya refugees. And we just got a $15 donation from Duke. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Who says, I see that 10 and raise you 5. If you could all just donate like that, that would be great. So anyways, kind of moving on a little bit. So a local member of the panel, Rin Mara, who is the chairman of Myanmar's National Human Rights Commission, rejected the criticism and said that the panel was actually getting things done. And he said the government is implementing our suggestions and the developments can be seen. He said when he was asked about Kobsak's criticisms, and he said, you cannot say that there's no development. So the Myanmar government spokesman, Zahate, could not be really reached for comment on Friday as his phone was switched off, and Myanmar faced renewed criticism from human rights investigators this week over the exodus of 700,000 Rohingya Muslims who fled a sweeping army crackdown last year in the Rakhine state that the UN had termed as ethnic cleansing. So it was kind of an early setback. The former Thai minister, Sucharit Sathirathai, was chosen last year by Sukai to chair the committee for implementation of the recommendations for the Rakhine state, as the panel is officially known. And Sucharit did not immediately respond to a request for comment on fellow Thai Kobsak's departure. Now, he wasn't a member of the panel as the head of its secretariat. Kobsak was responsible for just prep work for the meetings and collecting and collating background information and gathering views from interested parties. And the panel actually suffered an early setback when veteran U.S. politician Bill Richardson, who was one of its 5 original international members, walked out on its first set of meetings in January, calling it a whitewash and a cheerleading operation for Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi. So after he quit, Richardson accused Suu Kyi, who had actually been a former friend, of just not having moral leadership. And Suu Kyi's office said at the time that Richardson was pursuing his own agenda and had been asked to step down from the panel. So Myanmar security forces have been accused of just committing mass rapes and killings during clearance operations, which were launched last August following attacks by Rohingya insurgents. And the UN has called the campaign a textbook example of ethnic cleansing. But of course, firing back, Myanmar denies most of the allegations. And Kobsak said they have defended the line, which is always that this is an internal matter. We're handling it. We've done nothing wrong. This is a false narrative. And this is when he was referring to the attitude of the Myanmar government officials. And Kobsak also added that international efforts would be better focused on a new United Nations envoy appointed to the country, Swiss diplomat. This was from Swiss diplomat Christine Schraner-Beringer, who met with senior leaders on their first visit in June. And when speaking about Beringer, Kobsak said, "To put it in a positive way, I think the task we set for ourselves in the beginning, with all good intentions, can now be better performed by this Ambassador Christine Bergen, and we shouldn't muddy the message." And of course, shutdown was questioned. So according to two people who said that they actually witnessed the exchange, and this was during some talks this week, where one panel member, Swedish politician Urban Ahlin, tried to ask a question about giving citizenship to the Rohingya, but was cut off by Minister Soiki's office, Kwa Tint Sway, and Ahlin declined to comment, but instead he referred questions to Surakart. And Myanmar government officials, also present, did not respond to emails seeking comment. So citizenship and rights of Rohingya have been key points of contention during negotiations to return the refugees to conflict-ravaged northern Rakhine, and the vast majority of Rohingya are denied citizenship and prevented from traveling freely around Myanmar. So while the government says it's implemented most of the Annan Commission's recommendations, a senior official told Western diplomats and members of the commission in June that a proposal to review the citizenship law would not be possible. So that'll be interesting, just to keep up with that story. Some world news for you there. And moving on to America. So I know she's a favorite probably of many of you guys, as I know you love Fox News for the most part. So Kimberly Guilfoyle is exiting Fox News for a position at the PAC, at President Trump's Political Action Committee. So this is from the Los Angeles Times. She is actually leaving her co-host role on the Fox News program, The Five, to join President Trump's Political Action Committee. So multiple outlets have actually reported today that Guilfoyle, 49, is joining America First Policies, which is a nonprofit organization that promotes the agenda of the Trump White House. And Fox News confirmed her departure with a short statement saying it parted ways with Guilfoyle. I see your comment there, Watchman 117. Sorry if I said that wrong, Guilfoyle. So yes, and I see your comment, Duke. She is with Junior. She is currently dating President Trump's oldest son, Donald Jr. And of course, it's a little bit, more personal there. So she'll be on the campaign trail for Republican candidates for the midterm elections. And yes, I see your comment, Light Switch. They are one of conservatives' favorite power couples. And Serbain, who is a spokesperson for Donald Jr., said having Kim Guilfoyle on the trail campaigning with Donald Trump Jr. for Republicans this fall is a win for the entire GOP. Kim is one of the most influential voices in the MAGA movement and knows how to light up a crowd. So, like I said, her ties to the White House have been more personal lately as she's dating Donald Trump Jr., who is now separated from his wife. And she's long been an advocate for President Trump on the Five, but once she decided to join a political action committee, she had to cut her ties with Fox News. So, President Trump supporters populate conservative-leaning Fox News programs throughout the day, but the network does not employ hosts who have any formal role in an election campaign. And Guilfoyle's name actually came up in the past regarding a possible role in the Trump administration. In May 2017, she was reportedly in talks to replace former White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer. So she has become the latest Fox News alumna to cross over to work for President Trump. And yes, I see your comment, Dad. You can stay at my house during the Republican convention. It was actually announced tonight that the Republican National Convention will be in Charlotte, and that's where my dad lives. So exciting tie there. So anyways, also, some other Fox contributors that have moved on to work for President Trump include former Fox News co-president Bill Shine, and he was a confidant of the network's top-rated personality, Sean Hannity. He recently signed on as a deputy chief of staff for communications for the White House. And John Bolton was actually a contributor to Fox News before he was hired to be the Trump administration's national security advisor. And I don't know if you're familiar with her. I'm actually not. I'll have to look into it more. But one-time anchor Heather Nauert is an undersecretary for public affairs in the State Department. So as you know, Fox News, the top-rated cable news network, is a favorite outlet of President Trump. Before he even entered politics, he was called in regularly to the morning show, Fox and Friends, and he's given the bulk of his interviews to Fox News since he took office, but in recent weeks, he's actually been talking to other outlets such as ABC, CBS, and CNBC. And so Guilfoyle is actually a former San Francisco and Los Angeles prosecutor, and she's the ex-wife of California Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom. They divorced in 2005. She joined Fox News in 2006 as a weekend host and became a co-host on The Five in 2011. And so, many viewers of The Five are definitely going to miss her, but very exciting to hear that she is going to be even more of an advocate for the Trump administration and the conservative movement. I'm really excited to see what she does, so we'll just have to follow along. And for those of you that may just be tuning in, or if you are new to Right Side, I am, checking my Facebook comments as well, just to make sure you guys don't have any questions. And like I mentioned earlier, if you have news stories that you would like to share with me that I may have missed, please send them to my Twitter account at Alyssa RSBN. I'll share that with you guys right here. You can see just on the bottom there at Alyssa RSBN, and I'm going to keep checking my Twitter messages and mentions throughout the night. Want to make sure that I don't miss anything from you guys. Okay, so if you're new to Right Side, I want to tell you a little bit just about who we are and what we do. So we are a conservative-leaning news network. You know, it's in our name, Right Side Broadcasting Network, but we still try to just give you guys the facts and let you make decisions for yourselves. So we actually travel to President Trump's political rallies all around the country, and we show the crowds. That's what Right Side has become famous for. And we actually worked with the Trump campaign and helped him to be elected, just reaching, 400 million people, because we actually showed the crowds at the rallies, and they actually, the Trump, campaign actually showed our videos on President Trump's Facebook account. So we traveled to these rallies all around the country, and it is definitely expensive at a minimum of $5,000 each time, of course increasing depending on the number of crew members we send. It's always, between 3 to 5, and of course the more people we have, the more fun it is, and the better we're able to serve you, because we can interview more people in the crowds. So we go to all these rallies, and we, put on nightly broadcasts like this. And it is very expensive. We have just a handful of employees, and we are 100% donor founded. So that means that your donations are what supports us and, what pays us for our hard work. So we're thankful for each and every one of you. And, we're not able to travel to these rallies without you. So if you're able to donate and just to help us out to keep Right Side on the air, there are different ways that you can do that. The first way, super easy way right here. And yes, I see your comment, Ruth Mazar. Yes, you always showed the crowd, the real crowd, thank you, with an American flag, of course. So, sorry, I'm getting distracted in the YouTube chat. My dad saying that I love Texas. Yes, I definitely do, because we used to live there. So anyways, one of the ways you can donate in the YouTube chat, you just hit the $ button in the super chat, and you are able to donate right here. And it comes up in a bright color with whatever message you want to send, and I will read it out and share it with the world as long as it's appropriate. So we're very thankful for those donations. And I'm going to show you as well on our website how to donate if you have not before. So you go to our homepage, and our website was created by our fantastic CEO, Joe Seals. And I see your comment, Guinevere. You're totally fine. You can always talk about me. It doesn't distract me. It just makes it more fun. So anyways, you can go to our website, rsbnetwork.com. And on the top bar right here, you just hit that fourth tab, Donate. And you can donate with PayPal or credit card. You just click the link right here. And yes, Light Switch, I see that you like the new graphics that Joe made. They are very good. So you just enter the amount, and you can go through and either donate with PayPal or a debit or credit card. And then also, if you would like to become a patron, you can. You can become a monthly donator on patreon.com. And just received another $10 donation from Gregory Ashe. Thank you so much for that, Dad. He says, go Steelers. So anyways, you can donate on patreon.com, become a monthly donor, and receive fun things like hats, pens, pencils, stickers, and just different things so that you will be able to think of us throughout the day and remember to watch us. And you can see there are different levels right here. The entry level, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, double diamond, all access. And it was so much fun. That's $500 or more a month. And we actually, Joe and I got to have a conversation today with one of our all access donors, John Stewart, and it was so much fun. He's fantastic. He's a businessman, and he just wants to help us in any way he can. And it was so great. Just my first time talking to him, really getting to know him. So anyways, if you are not comfortable donating online, we completely understand that. And you can actually mail your checks in to RSBN. You write the check out to RSBN and you can send it to our P.O. Box, which is at 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344 in Auburn, Alabama 36830. So that is one way that you can donate. It's so much fun always being able to just go through the different donations, the different checks, also because people send handwritten letters as well, and we're very thankful for that. You guys are the heart behind what we do, and we're not able to do it without all of your support. And I see your comment, the British Patriot. When is Joe going to release the mobile app? The date for that is not released yet, but stay tuned. We will keep you guys updated. And Real Frank in Florida, wow, John Stewart walked away. If you're talking about the donor I was telling you about, no, he is still an awesome supporter and still with us for sure. So switching back over right now, a fun story, not exactly fun, but kind of controversial and crazy that you guys, many of you saw, many of you were commenting yesterday. And yes, I see your comment, Jameson Carpenter, about the Pentagon, and I will save that and get to that one very soon. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys when yesterday it was a crazy moment on The View when Whoopi Goldberg actually asked Judge Jeanine Pirro to leave. So I want to show you guys a video of that in case you haven't seen it. Of course, they had a sit down about it today on Fox. Okay, and just checking real quick, making sure my sound is good so that you will be able to hear everything. Okay.
Years old, there have been a lot of people in office that I didn't agree with, but I have never, ever seen anything like this. I've never seen anybody whip up such hate. I've never seen anybody be so dismissive. Here's my question for you, because you talk about, I don't have Trump derangement. Let me tell you what I have. Okay. I have a lot of, I'm tired of people starting a conversation with Mexicans or liars and rapists.
Whoopi, you know what's horrible? When people who shouldn't be here end up murdering the children of American citizens.
You know what's horrible? When the president of the United States whips up people to beat the hell out of people. No. Say goodbye.
Say goodbye, and then on the other side of that timeout, Judge Jeanine was no longer in that chair. What happened?
Okay, so I'm invited to The View to talk about my new book, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy. And, you know, the publisher said, you want to go to The View? I said, of course I'll go to The View. I like Whoopi. I like them. I have no problem talking about my book. So I go there. And, you know, the first segment was relatively calm. And, you know, I got the transcript. And one of the things I said was, one of the things we need now, we need people to talk to people who ostensibly hate each other. It's time we sat down and had a conversation. And Whoopi, you know, interrupted and said, now? Oh, I'm so glad. But anyway, that was almost prescient. The second segment, after some small talk, I mean, we had, you know, I was making small talk. I was, you know, happy to discuss my book. Right? And then we came back and it was, you know, no holds barred. Whoopi got angry, and what the viewing audience, the television audience, didn't see is that they popped up the cover of my book as she pushed off the desk, you know, unplugged her mic, and then stormed off the set. So I'm there saying, you know, I'm in television. I said, I don't think the segment's over, but I think she just left, Janine. I think it's over. So I take off my own mic, and then you have to go down the stairs. I go down the stairs, and she's right there, and I said something like, Whoopi, you know, I spent my whole life fighting for victims, because we had talked about rapes and all that. And she said to me, as she got up in my face, and I read somewhere someone said, well, you should have kept walking. I couldn't walk by her. She was at the bottom of the stairs. She says, F you, F you. And then I said, did you just say F you? And then she said, get the F out of this building, get the F out of this building. So I'm there, and I'm like, okay.
And you didn't do anything to provoke anybody there?
No, you can ask the people that I was with. I mean, she was nuts going off the set, and then when I walked down, and so as I started walking out the building, so this woman is yelling behind me, get the F out of this building. I mean, look, I've been a prosecutor, judge, DA for 30 years. I try murder cases. I can go toe-to-toe with anybody. But that was abuse, and it was sad. It was a sad moment that, you know, she was triggered, and I never understood triggering.
Did she reach out to you afterwards and apologize? I know she apologized to the audience.
She apologized to the audience, not for what she did to me, and they had no idea what happened when I walked off this set.
You haven't heard from anyone from
yeah, no, a producer called, and yesterday it was nonstop radio and television. I was promoting the book. I haven't had a chance to return the call, but the producer did call.
You know, so, I mean, what is this? Just, did they hate the president so much that you were the person, you've been a supporter of him, so they're coming at you?
Well, you know, I certainly think that may be it. And, you know, I tried to answer the questions, just like you would answer the questions. And I said, you know, it's another audience. It's the ability to at least talk about some of the good things that the president has done and the problems that I talk about in Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, which is the corruption at the highest levels of the Department of Justice and the FBI. And I have hundreds of footnotes in my book. It's an easy read. I mean, don't get scared by the footnote comment. But, you know, I make it a clear, you know, it's clear what happened. Read the book. They didn't want to know.
I got a question for you. They're watching this over at ABC right now. If you were to look into camera one, what would you say to Whoopi Goldberg right now?
You know, I guess I would say to Whoopi, you know, I've always liked you, Whoopi, and I don't understand where the anger comes from. I went to have a conversation, and I wasn't allowed to have a conversation, and I didn't deserve to be thrown out. I really, we can't treat people like that. You just can't. We can disagree, but we need to be able to talk about it.
Judge, have you ever thrown anyone off your set?
No.
When you ask someone to come on as a guest, I feel like you owe them the common courtesy, because a book tour is hard. You're going from place to place to place, and you're trying to speak to their audiences, and you're saying yes to invitations, and you have to make choices as to what shows you're going to go on. And for them to treat you that way, you're my family. I'm sorry that you were treated that way, and I think as a guest in someone's home,
that's
just the wrong way to treat someone.
Yeah,
it's not fair.
Yeah, you're invited into their home, and you know, to be thrown off like that was really, it was disheartening. America is better than this. America is the place where you have free speech. But what happened yesterday was a microcosm of what's happening in the nation.
Yes.
And
shout down and shut down.
Yeah, we don't want to hear from you.
Yep.
All right. Once again, the book, brand new. It's what everybody's talking about. Leakers, Liars, and Liberals. Judge.
So you could see there just how crazy it was and inappropriate that it happened on The View. I saw just many of your comments and responses here. I like your response, Real Frank in Florida. I think The View needs a moderator, definitely. And the flag guy, I hate swear words. It's not nice to swear at someone. Yeah. And Watchman 117 said Whoopi Goldberg is the hater. If Judge Jeanine had treated Whoopi like that, she would have been fired. Yeah, and she will be on more shows just talking about her experiences. And I see many of you commenting about TDS and asking what it is, because Judge Jeanine did think that Whoopi Goldberg had TDS, which of course I hope none of you have it. But in case you're wondering or not sure what's going on, it's Trump derangement syndrome. And I want to go through that with you guys a little bit. And this is something actually that President Trump came up with when talking about his opponents. He said, some people hate the fact that I got along well with President Putin of Russia. He tweeted, they would rather go to war than see this. It's called Trump derangement syndrome. And this is all information from Urban Dictionary and CNN Politics. So what it means, according to Urban Dictionary right now, Trump derangement syndrome is a mental condition in which a person has been driven effectively insane due to their dislike of Donald Trump to the point at which they will abandon all logic and reason. So Justin Raimondo, who is the editorial director of antiwar.com, wrote a piece in the Los Angeles Times in 2016 that broke TDS down into 3 distinct phases or stages. So number 1, in the first stage of the disease, victims lose all sense of proportion. The president-elect's every tweet provokes a firestorm, as if 140 characters were all it took to change the world. And number 2, the mid-level stages of TDS have a profound effect on the victim's vocabulary. Sufferers speak a distinctive language consisting solely of hyperbole. As TDS progresses, the afflicted lose the ability to distinguish fantasy from reality. And the point here is that TDS is, in the eyes of its adherents, the knee-jerk opposition from liberals to anything and everything President Trump does. And if it's announced that he was donating every single dollar he's made, which, you know, he's not making money in office, TDS sufferers would suggest he was up to something nefarious. According to the logic of TDS, there's nothing, not one thing, that Trump could do or say that would be received positively by TDSers. So the history of TDS actually goes back to the early 2000s, which was a time when the idea of Trump as president was a punchline for late night comics and nothing more. And Wikipedia actually traces its roots to Bush derangement system, which is a term first coined by late conservative columnist Charles Krauthammer back in 2003. So the condition, as Krauthammer defined it, was the acute onset of paranoia in otherwise normal people in reaction to the policies, the presidency, nay, the very existence of George W. Bush. And Krauthammer added, some clinicians consider this delusion that Americans can only get their news from one part of the political spectrum the gravest of all. They report that no matter how many times sufferers in padded cells are presented with flashcards with the symbols ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, NPR, PBS, Time, Newsweek, New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times, they remain unresponsive, some in a terrifying near catatonic torpor. So, post-Bush and pre-Trump, there was also what some called ODS, Obama Derangement System, although this infection was less widespread. And in a piece headlined Obama Derangement System, Vox's Ezra Klein wrote, Obama Derangement System is different than Bush Derangement Syndrome. It isn't so much paranoia about President Obama's policies as it is paranoia about the man himself, that he is, in some fundamental way, different, foreign, untrustworthy, even traitorous. So at the heart of ODS was the belief that President Obama was not, in fact, an American citizen, and therefore was ineligible to even be president. And the loudest voice pushing that debunked conspiracy theory was none other than President Trump, which brings it full circle back to TDS. So Trump allies believe that TDS is worse than ODS or BDS, and they actually wrote a conservative pundit, it was written by a conservative pundit, Bernie Goldberg, on Real Clear Politics in early 2017. And I'll share that with you guys. He said, before the election, the victims of TDS routinely compared Donald Trump to Hitler. Guess what? They're still doing it. Articles in respectable publications written by professors at elite universities are warning us to be on guard, that a Trump presidency could imperil democracy as we know it and may very well spell doom for American civilization. On election night, as it became obvious that their worst nightmare was about to come true, some libs fainted, some vomited, and many more threatened to leave the country, but I'm pretty sure none actually did, as Donald Trump might say in a tweet, so sad. And this says that the truth is that TDS is just the preferred nomenclature of President Trump defenders who view those who oppose him and his policies as nothing more than just blind hatred of those who preach tolerance and free speech. And viewed more broadly, the rise of presidential derangement syndrome is a function of increased polarization, not to mention our nation self-sorting at work in the country today. And that just, describes a little bit more about it. But for those of you that wanted to know or were wondering, especially after watching the very heated and unfortunate interaction between Whoopi Goldberg and Judge Jeanine Pirro, that is a description of TDS. And I'm going to keep checking Twitter as well, just to make sure. You guys don't have any updates. Okay, it looks like I got one from Lily Hager. A story that I haven't seen yet. Wow, and this was just updated tonight. Thank you so much, Lily, for sharing this with me. I'll share it with everyone. And she said, sorry about CNN link, LOL. But I'll pull this up for you guys. So the heart doctor for former President George H.W. Bush was actually killed in a bicycle drive-by shooting. His name is Dr. Mark Hausknecht. And I'll show you guys a picture of him right here with former President Bush. So you can see them together right there. And I'm going to leave that up for a second so you can see it while I tell you what happened. Okay, so sharing with you guys a little bit from ABC News, and then I'll get on to this CNN one as well. So Houston police are currently searching for the suspect who fatally shot the prominent cardiologist who treated former President George H.W. Bush. Dr. Mark Hausknecht was riding his bike today when he was shot and killed, according to the Houston Methodist Hospital. So definitely a heartbreaking loss. Please pray for the doctor's family and friends at this time. And the former president released a statement about his doctor's death through his spokesman. He said, "Mark was a fantastic cardiologist and a good man. I will always be grateful for his exceptional, compassionate care. His family is in our hearts." And I see your comment, Nick Elipoulos. Definitely will look into this story as well about a 7-year-old in Baltimore shot in drive-by crossfire. No arrest yet. Why? I will definitely look into that next, Nick. So in a statement from the hospital, Hausknecht was praised for his kind bedside manner and compassion. And police are currently searching for a white or Hispanic male suspect who was wearing a dark jacket and fled the scene, according to ABC station KTRK. So right here, a little bit more of a precise location. So Dr. Mark Hausknecht and the shooter were both riding bikes on South Main Street near Texas Children's Pavilion for Women shortly before 9 a.m. local time. Executive Assistant Police Chief Troy Finner said at a news conference, Hausknecht was 65 years old. He was actually biking north when he passed the shooter going in the other direction. The shooter turned, fired 2 shots at Hausknecht, and rode away on his bike, Finner said. Hausknecht was taken to a hospital where he was pronounced dead. And Finner said investigators didn't know if the shooting was targeted, random, or caused by road rage. He said a few people witnessed the shooting, and video may become available. And there's that statement right there. President George H.W. Bush was deeply saddened by the tragic circumstances surrounding the untimely passing of Dr. Mark Hausknecht in Houston earlier today, and 41 sends his most sincere concerns to the Hausknecht family, his colleagues at Houston Methodist, and his friends. Mark was a fantastic cardiologist and a good man. President Bush said, "I will always be grateful for his exceptional, compassionate care. His family is in our prayers." And this is from Jim McGrath, George H.W. Bush's former White House spokesman. So the suspect is said to be a white or Hispanic male, about 30 years old, wearing a tan baseball cap, gray warm-up jacket, khaki shorts, and riding a light-colored mountain bicycle. And that's just the statement that I just shared with you guys. So in another statement, the Houston Methodist Hospital said, "I'm very sorry to inform you that Dr. Mark Hausknecht, a cardiologist who was an important member of the Houston Methodist staff and the DeBakey Heart and Vascular Center, was tragically shot and killed this morning while riding his bicycle to work. Mark was a leader in the Houston Cardiovascular Associates and specialized in cardiovascular disease. He received his medical degree from Baylor College of Medicine and completed his residency and fellowship at the Johns Hopkins Hospital. He is a longtime Houston Methodist affiliated physician and has been in practice for almost 4 decades. And the shooting prompted authorities to urge people inside the Bioscience Research Collaborative Center to shelter in place. CNN affiliate KTRK reported. Definitely a heartbreaking situation and loss, but thank you very much for sharing that with us, Lily Hager. And also, I want to look into the story that another one of you told me about the 7-year-old in Baltimore. So her name is actually Taylor Hayes, and I'll pull up a picture of her for you guys. Here is Taylor Hayes, super cute, super heartbreaking for her family, so young. So she actually passed away yesterday, and on July 5th, she was struck by a bullet while riding in the back seat of the car. And the driver of the car, Darnell Holmes, was arrested on July 6th for 6 gun and drug-related counts. Baltimore police are still investigating the shooting. So the death yesterday of Taylor has once again elicted anger about Baltimore's notorious no-snitching ethos. And this is from the BaltimoreSun.com. So her homicide is the latest high-profile case in which detectives believe an individual has information on who killed a child but won't cooperate. So she was a 2nd grader, and she was riding in the backseat of a Honda Accord in southwest Baltimore on July 5th when a bullet struck her in the back, and she died while fighting for her life. And like I mentioned, the driver, Darnell Holmes, 33, was arrested July 6th and charged with 6 gun and drug-related counts after police said they recovered a loaded gun, a digital scale, and heroin from the glove box of her Accord. And police have said she's not cooperating with the investigators. And Councilman Brandon Scott, who's been outspoken about violence in Baltimore, said that a code of silence that protects criminals must end. And the councilman said there are people who know who shot this little girl. A real person would step up and say, I did it. A real person would step away and say, this is who did it. And her shooting shooting death follows other child killings in previous years in which investigations were obstructed by witnesses or people who police said were withholding information. Back in 2014, a 3-year-old named Mackenzie Elliott was killed when a stray bullet struck her while she was standing on a porch in Waverly. 2 other people were shot and survived. And then immediately after the shooting, then Baltimore Police Commissioner Anthony W. Batts and other public officials repeatedly urged people to come forward with information. And Batts said, we know who the group is, but we don't have any people outside that says that's the person. And I see you commenting here. Nick, thank you so much for this tip. In your comment, he said, no corporate magnates there anymore, no economic opportunity, hence massive violence. And yes, Guinevere, great question as well. Where are the protests for all of these tragedies? I don't know. It's so heartbreaking. So Batts, who was the then Baltimore Police Commissioner, said, we know what happened. We have information from a confidential informant. We just need someone to come forward and say that's the person. And it wasn't until April of 2017 that investigators believe they identified Mackenzie's killer, an alleged neighborhood gang member arrested after federal authorities charged him with use of firearm resulting in a death. And so, like I said, that was from a previous loss, so I'm not going to get into that anymore, but please keep just the family and the friends of Taylor Hayes in your prayers right now. And I'm going to switch over to an economic story about Treasury Secretary Mnuchin watching the Chinese yuan weakness for manipulation. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background on him in case you're not familiar, and then we will go into the news story. So he's the Secretary of the U.S. Treasury, and he was sworn in as the 77th Secretary of the Treasury on February 13th, 2017. And this is all from whitehouse.gov, as you can see. So he's responsible for the executive branch agency whose mission is to maintain a strong economy, foster economic growth, and create job opportunities by promoting the conditions that enable prosperity and stability at home and abroad. And he's also responsible for strengthening national security by combating economic threats and protecting the integrity of our financial system, as well as managing the U.S. government's finances. So prior to his confirmation, he was actually the finance chairman for Donald J. Trump for president. And in his role, he spent the last year traveling with the president. He met with hundreds of business leaders. And he also served as a senior economic advisor to the president, crafting his economic positions and economic speeches. So prior to his confirmation, he also served as founder, chairman, and chief executive officer of Dune Capital Management, and he also founded One West Bank Group, LLC, and served as its chairman and chief executive officer until its sale to CIT Group, Inc., which was the first bank merger over 50 million post-financial crisis. So earlier in his career, and yes, thank you so much, Vivencio Mistiller. Really appreciate your comment. Thanks, Alyssa and RSBN. I love this news. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. So, like I said, earlier in his career, he worked at the Goldman Sachs Group, Inc., where he partnered and served as a CIO, and he has extensive experience in global financial markets, and he oversaw trading in U.S. government securities, mortgages, money markets, and municipal bonds. He's committed to philanthropic activities and previously served as a member of the boards of the Museum of Contemporary Art, Los Angeles, the Whitney Museum of Art, the Hirshhorn Museum and Sculpture Garden on the Mall, the UCLA Health System Board, and the New York Presbyterian Hospital Board, the Los Angeles Police Foundation. And he was also born and raised in New York and holds a bachelor's degree from Yale University. So moving on to this story from Reuters as well in just 1 second. So the U.S. is monitoring the recent weakness in China's yuan currency and will review whether the currency has been manipulated. U.S. Secretary Stephen Mnuchin told Reuters on Friday. He said in an interview in Sao Paulo, Brazil, that the yuan's weakness would be reviewed as part of the U.S. Treasury's semi-annual report on currency manipulation. And that's due on October 15th and will be based on activity for the first 6 months of 2018. And, okay, switching over real quick. So, when he was asked whether he was concerned that China may be using its currency as a weapon in an escalating trade fight with the United States, Mnuchin said, "I'm not saying whether it's a weapon or not a weapon. There's no question that the weakening of the currency creates an unfair advantage for them." And just got a comment from Katie Causey, one of my best friends at home. Thank you so much, Katie, for tuning in. He said, Mnuchin said, "We're going to very carefully review whether they have manipulated the currency." And his comments came just after President Trump accused China and the European Union of manipulating their currencies in a tweet on Friday, adding that this is taking away our big competitive edge. So President Trump also repeated his complaints that Fed interest rate hikes were causing the dollar to rise and said he was ready to impose U.S. tariffs on all 5 billion of imported goods from China. And China's yuan, which is battered by the trade brawl, has lost 7.5% of its value since the end of the first quarter to a year low of 6.767 to the dollar, making it its biggest 90-day drop since yuan exchange rates were unified in 1994. And the Treasury under President Trump has thus far refrained from declaring China as a currency manipulator, despite President Trump's campaign promise to do it as soon as he took office. And this is partly because the yuan had been rising or stable until earlier this year. So some information on that, and we will, have to keep you guys updated, of course, whether the Chinese yuan, the weakness of it, is cause for manipulation or not And I'm going to head over to Facebook real quick, check the comments there, make sure you guys don't have any questions or comments. Yes, and Brandy Copeland, I see your comment about The View, since we watched the clip earlier of Judge Jeanine Pirro and Whoopi Goldberg just having a very heated conversation there as Whoopi got very upset. Brandy Copeland said, "I have only watched The View maybe 2 to 3 times ever. Who needs to sit around listening to a bunch of women tell me what I've seen or heard? I'm capable of coming to my own conclusions and just give the facts. I will make my own determinations. It's like listening to a lecture and then they have a show telling you what you saw and heard and how to interpret." And then some nice comments from Paul Newcomb as well. Thank you so much for joining. And over on YouTube, Jameson Carpenter said, "China is incapable of winning a trade war when we actually fight back. The Chinese government asked the state-run media to stop insulting Trump because we keep slapping tariffs on them." Thank you very much for that, Jameson. And the Millers, Alyssa, are you reading PayPal donations too? Not at the moment. But if you did give on PayPal, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. I just need to get access to that next week. So stay tuned and you will be able to see that. Okay. And so moving on. I'm going to pull something up for you guys real quick, and then I will share it with you. So this was definitely not a good story that came out today, but President Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, has recorded a conversation with President Trump before the election in which they discussed possible payments to a former Playboy model who said she had relations with President Trump. A source familiar with the investigation confirmed to Fox News, and her name is Karen McDougal. I'm going to show you guys a picture of her. And this is from Fox News as well. So the source told Fox News that no payment was ever made, but the New York Times first reported that the FBI seized the recording during a raid earlier this year on Cohen's office as part of an investigation into the former Trump lawyer's payments to women to shut down stories about his client leading to the 2016 election, a practice known as catch and kill. Fox News has not confirmed the details of this tape, but the conversation is said to involve a possible payment to Karen McDougal, who claims she had an affair with Trump in 2006. And it took place 2 months before the election. So the Wall Street Journal reported in November 2016 that McDougal was paid $150,000 by American Media Inc. and the parent company to National Enquirer for the rights to the story, but it never ran. McDougall has sued AMI, alleging Cohen was secretly involved in these discussions. The lawsuit was settled in April, but Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani told the Times that while there was discussion, the payment was never made. And the tape showed that President Trump had done nothing wrong. Giuliani told the Times nothing in that conversation suggests that he had any knowledge of it in advance. He also said that President Trump told Cohen that any payment should be by check, not cash, so it could be documented properly. In the big scheme of things, it's powerful exculpatory evidence, he said. So part of the investigation into Cohen involves the $130,000 hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels in the weeks leading up to the 2016 presidential election in exchange for her silence about an alleged one-time sexual encounter with President Trump, and he has denied any affair with either Daniels or McDougall. So speculation has been widespread about what the investigation into Cohen could potentially provide for FBI Special Counsel Robert Mueller's probe into Russian interference in the 2016 election and allegations of collusion with the Trump campaign. So earlier this month, Cohen distanced himself from the president, saying that his family had his first loyalty. And he told ABC News' George Stephanopoulos, "My wife, my daughter, and my son have my first loyalty and always will." And Cohen later said, "I will not be a punching bag as part of anyone's defense strategy. I am not a villain of the story, and I will not allow others to try to depict me that way." So definitely a hard, controversial story. And we will keep you guys updated on that as more details are released. Okay, and I am going to, let's see what I have next for you guys. Pulling it up right now. And also, I would love to know, I'll put it up right here so that you can see it. At Alyssa RSBN is my Twitter handle. If you have any comments that you would like to send to my Twitter or news stories that I may have missed, please do. I would absolutely love that. I think there's one that one of you sent me about the Pentagon and Ukraine that I'm still getting into. Let me pull that up for you. Yes, it was Jameson Carpenter. Okay. I just found it. So here's just a little bit about it, and I will search for more as well. So this is actually from Fox News. So the Pentagon says it will provide $200 million in additional training, equipment, and advisory assistance to Ukraine's military. The money is meant to aid various aspects of Ukraine's military, including the command and control of forces, secure communications, and medical treatment. And a timeline for delivery of the aid and fielding of equipment is to be determined later, the Pentagon said in an announcement Friday. And just received a $1 donation from CNN. Thank you very much for that. And another $5 donation from my dad, Gregory Ashe. Thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it. So the new assistance comes amid efforts by the Ukraine government to make its armed forces more functional with those of NATO alliance. And it also coincides with a political debate over U.S. and Russian relations in the aftermath of the Helsinki summit and President Trump's position on Russia's military intervention in eastern Ukraine. And that might be all that's out about that right now, but I'm going to keep checking, so stay tuned. Yeah, I think on each source it is just the same story, so I am not going to share that with you guys again. But thank you so much for the tip, Jameson. And let me see what else I have for you guys tonight. Stay tuned. We are not done yet. And of course, I would love to hear just about what kind of stories you guys would like to hear on the nightly news recap. I'll be doing these every night, Monday through Friday. So if you want to, like I mentioned earlier, and you can see that it's right here at Alyssa RSBN, my Twitter handle. So if you have any stories, any types of stories that you might like to hear on the nightly news recaps, please mention them right here. And I see your comment, swoosh for Trump, not even close to done. The winning keeps on happening. Yes, thank you so much, swoosh. And for those of you that may be new to RSBN, you've never been here before, you're just tuning in, welcome. We are so glad to have you. I just wanted to give you guys kind of a little bit of background about why we do what we do. So we travel all around the country to different political rallies, President Trump's rallies specifically, and we show the crowds at these rallies, which is something that the mainstream media outlets don't do at all. So we show the crowds, and we really, get in the middle of the crowds. We get to know the people. We interview them. And by the end of the day, we have made a lot of friends. And so it's such a blast. We just have a small handful of employees. And, we're able to travel to these rallies. It is expensive, and it's expensive to maintain our equipment as well. So traveling to these different rallies is a minimum of at least, $5,000 or more. It goes up depending on where it is, how many we're sending. We send 3 to 5, but it's more fun, of course, when we do have 5 people. It just makes it easier for everyone because we're able to just take turns and pull people from the crowds and, take breaks and just do the best that we can to give you guys the whole rally experience. And so it definitely is a blast. But we're not able to do it without you guys. and without your support. And so I'm going to tell you guys about the different ways that you can donate. We haven't had a whole lot of donations tonight. Last night was great, but not so many tonight, at least that I can see here on YouTube. So if you are able, it would be super helpful. One of the ways that you can is that you donate right here in the YouTube chat. You just hit the $, that super chat button, and it comes up in a color, and you are able to type your message, and I share it with the whole world. And I can see one of our fantastic moderators, Guinevere, commenting the different links to donate. Thank you so much, Guinevere. We really appreciate you. We have so many great moderators here at RSBN on the website. We have Common Sense and Glenn O. And then here on YouTube, we have the original moderator, and we have Guinevere, Real Frank in Florida, Barbara Brayley, JC, and so many others. Just thank you so much for being here tonight. And then we have sponsors as well. Nate Skate is in the house, and Duke and Gregory Ashe and James Wolfe and The Wicked Truth. So anyways, we're thankful for each and every one of you. And yes, Dan the Plumber was here earlier. And so we're thankful for each and every one of you. Oh, Dan's saying, where is Tom O'Neill? Because he's not in the chat room anymore. Okay. And Real Frank saying he was here earlier. Anyways, so, definitely glad to have all of you here. So like I said, one of the first ways you can donate, you just hit the $ right here on the chat. Comes up in a bright color, and I share your message with the whole world as long as it is appropriate. And also, if you don't want to donate here on YouTube, that's okay. We understand, because YouTube does keep about 70%. They keep 30%, and we keep the other 70%. But with PayPal donations, we actually get to keep about 90% of the donation. And so I am going to switch back over and show you guys, in case you are new, just joining us here at RSBN. We're so happy to have you. So first, you go to our website, rsbnetwork.com. And I'm going to show you guys how to get back to here. You just click Donate, 4th tab over. And you can donate with PayPal or a credit card. So you just click that link, and then you have those two options. Super simple, whether you donate with PayPal or a debit or credit card. And then also you can give a monthly donation. You are actually able to become a patron with Patreon. You can see right here, patreon.com/RSBN if you would like to donate that way. So you can become a patron and donate monthly. There are different ways you can do that. So different tiers. The entry level is $1 or more a month. You get a thank you email from RSBN, access to patron-only content, vote in our patron-only polls. And with the bronze level, you get access to the RSBN VIP Facebook group of patrons, plus all of the previous rewards. At the silver level, which is $15 or more a month, you get a live on-air shout-out during a news broadcast, and actually a signed RSBN high-res digital poster with all of the crew, plus all previous rewards. With the gold level, now that is $30 a month, you get your name featured on the news ticker, which you can see scrolling right down here at the bottom of the screen with names of different donators. And you get exclusive live chats with the RSBN team members, plus all of the previous rewards, of course. Now, the platinum level is $50 a month. You get an RSBN swag bag with fun stuff like t-shirts, coffee mugs, stickers, and other cool RSBN gear, so that you can just, think of us throughout the day and remember to watch us. And you get exclusive access to a live online VIP concert, by RSBN's Jacob Seals, writer of American Dreamer and other songs, plus all previous rewards. Now, with the diamond level, when you are donating $100 or more a month, you get an exclusive group video call with the RSBN team, your name on the RSBN office wall, and an autographed RSBN photo, and your name entered to in a monthly drawing to receive the autographed RSBN football we throw around the office, plus all other rewards. And then the double diamond level, that is $250 or more a month. You get your own personalized song created by RSBN's Jacob Seals, and a personal phone call from RSBN CEO Joe Seals, a one-on-one video call with the RSBN staff, plus all previous rewards. Now, the all-access level, if you are donating $500 or more a month, you can appear monthly on an RSBN show. You get a personalized thank you video from the RSBN team, and your name appears in the credits of RSBN shows as a sponsor, plus all previous rewards. But, sorry, I know that was a lot, but if you're not comfortable donating, completely understand that. You can also, if you're not comfortable donating online, you can also send a check directly here to our P.O. box. You just write the check out to RSBN, and then that is 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344 in Auburn, Alabama 36830. So that is how you are able to send in a check, and it's definitely heartwarming just getting, your checks in, but even more than that, the handwritten letters that you guys write us. We really appreciate that. They're such a blessing, and it's so sweet to see, just going through them with Joe the other day was just so great and such a blessing to get to know you guys and to get to know, just what you want out of RSBN. We love hearing your suggestions and just your thanks as well. And yes, I see your comment, Lady Leatherneck, former President George H.W. Bush's cardiologist, fatally shot. I did get into that story earlier that happened today. Definitely heartbreaking and a weird situation. They were actually riding bikes, the doctor and the shooter. So definitely sad and a weird situation. And I saw one of your comments, Jameson, trying to go back. It was about Senator Rubio. I might have lost it. I should have pulled it out. Okay, I don't see it. But stay tuned. I have a little bit more for you guys tonight before we wrap this up. Okay, awesome. Yes. Perfect. I wanted to find more information for you guys about the Pentagon sending $200 million in non-lethal aid to Ukraine to move unexpected to Ryle, Moscow. Couldn't find it, just did. So I'm going to switch over and share that with you guys real quick. Okay, so we're going to kind of back up a little bit. Some of this you've heard, but there are a lot more details that have not been, that I've not announced yet. So the Pentagon announced Friday that it would send $200 million in non-lethal military aid to Ukraine. And this is from Fox News. And I just got your comment, Jameson. Thank you. I will save that for right after this one. Love getting you guys' tips and suggestions. So, and this was a move likely to anger Moscow just days after President Trump held a summit in Finland with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Now, the American military hardware being shipped to Ukraine actually includes secure communications, military mobility, night vision, and military medical treatment, according to Maj Sergel Klinkel, who is a Pentagon spokesperson. And Klinkel said in a statement, this reaffirms the long-standing defense relationship between the United States and Ukraine, brings the total U.S. security sector assistance to Ukraine to more than $1 billion since 2014. And it's not immediately clear when the new equipment will be delivered. Also, thank you for your comment, John Smith. So, Pentagon officials said the planning for this move has been in the works for months and is not tied to the Helsinki summit. And the State Department said Friday it would not support a referendum in eastern Ukraine, a reference to what a Russian official said Putin proposed to Trump at the summit earlier this week. And Heather Nauert said, to be clear, the administration is not considering supporting a referendum in Ukraine. A referendum would have no legitimacy. We continue to support Minsk agreements for solving the conflict in Donbas, hashtag Ukraine. So Russia's ambassador to the United States, Anatoly Antonov, was the official who President Trump and Putin discussed the possibility of a referendum in the area of eastern Ukraine controlled by Russian-backed separatists. Now, the Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, is also asking that Congress sign a waiver that would allow the U.S. to sell weapons to countries that also purchase arms from Russia. And the idea is to make sure U.S. sanctions don't push allies into the arms of Russia. And Mattis said in a statement issued by the Pentagon, Russia should suffer consequences for its aggressive, destabilizing behavior and its illegal occupation of Ukraine. And he also said, the fundamental question we must ask ourselves is, do we wish to strengthen our partners in key regions or leave them with no other option than to turn to Russia, thereby undermining a once-in-a-generation opportunity to more closely align nations with the U.S. vision for global security and stability. And in late April, the U.S. government delivered hundreds of lethal Javelin anti-tank missiles to Ukraine for the first time after 4 years of requests from the government in Kyiv to better defend Ukrainian troops against Russian armor. And Moscow has supported a separatist movement in eastern Ukraine since 2014, in addition to annexing Ukraine's Crimea Peninsula. Okay, and going back to the story you linked and sent to me, Jameson. The story about Senator Marco Rubio and Tim Scott. And this actually happened yesterday. Okay, so I found some information on this, and thank you so much for sending, Jameson. So this is actually from Breitbart. So Republican Senators Marco Rubio and Tim Scott torpedoed a conservative nominee to the Ninth Circuit Appeals Court on Thursday, whom even liberals called qualified for the bench, citing college-era political comments, energizing Democrats, and creating a new line of attack against the confirmations of dozens of other judicial picks, including Brett Kavanaugh for the Supreme Court. So Ryan Bounds, he's an Oregon federal prosecutor who clerked for Judge Diarman Scanlon on the Ninth Circuit, had an impressive array of credentials that impressed people on the left and the right. And even the left-wing American Bar Association unanimously voted to rate Bounds as qualified for the Ninth Circuit after they reviewed his full record, showing that even those firmly aligned with liberal priorities acknowledge that college-era political rifts do not disqualify someone from a federal judgeship. So, what would have been a historic moment for the President Trump administration and the Republican Party to nominate a qualified judge ended in a failed nomination due to Rubio and Scott's efforts to take down a conservative judge due to the misgivings about the nominee's writings in a college newspaper. So Scott privately told Rubio on the Wednesday before the vote that he had concerns about Bounds' racially insensitive writings in the Stanford Daily, a college conservative newspaper, back in 1995. And Rubio actually made a pact with Scott to vote no on Trump's nominee, promising that Republicans would vote the same way. And both senators voted yes on Bounds in the procedural vote, and the Senate Judiciary Committee approved his nomination in an 11-10 vote in June. But instead of letting the White House and the Senate Judiciary Committee know of their misgivings about Bounds months ago, Rubio and Scott raised their concerns about the Oregon federal prosecutor right before Thursday's Senate vote, which state Republicans needed 50 votes in order for Bounds' nomination to pass. So Bounds' writings were well known on Capitol Hill since he was nominated in September 2017, but Rubio did not feign ignorance of them. Instead, he decided to speak on the record in a Thursday interview supporting Scott's decision to take down a judicial nominee who became a priority for the conservative movement. So Rubio told Roll Call Senator Scott needed more time to talk to people who knew him, and that's not available. Senator Scott said he couldn't vote for him today. If the vote was now, I support him in that decision. And Bond's failed nomination has already emboldened Democrats to put forth a strategy of judicial activism. So the Washington Post actually noted Thursday that after the Senate's failure to nominate Bounds to the Ninth Circuit, Democrats are using the opportunity to demand that Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh release more than 1 million pages of documents, even if the writings have no basis in judicial opinion, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And so even though Kavanaugh has a lengthy public record of opinions from serving as a judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit and working in the Bush White House, the failed Bounds nomination gives Senate Democrats an opportunity to obstruct judicial nominees on partisan grounds. And Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, of course, has already responded to the Bounds fiasco by demanding that all college era writings from Brett Kavanaugh, plus every document he's been associated with in almost 30 years since then, Democrats are looking for other nominees' writings as well in their quest for judicial activism. So leftists who have long sought out activist judges to get their priorities across are also using establishment Republicans willing to nominate moderates to get their agenda across. And billionaire Paul Singer, who's one of Rubio's top presidential funding sources, pours tremendous funds into those left-of-center priorities, including amnesty, open borders, the LBT agenda, gun control, abortion, and racial preferences. And the demands for Kavanaugh and other nominees are a fishing expedition where there are no known controversies, and the documents often don't even express their personal views. So objecting to the public political writings of one nominee is not the equivalent of demanding private non-political documents of another nominee. So, this story is still continuing to unfold, and the fallout for Rubio and Scott from major conservative groups whose efforts have now suffered as a result of this setback for the White House is not yet clear. So definitely stay tuned for that. And thank you very much for the tip, Jameson Carpenter. Really appreciate that. So checking Twitter one more time just to make sure you guys don't have any comments that you'd like to share or news stories. I got one from Paul Newcomb. Thank you so much for that. What a sweet story that I'll share with you guys real quick, or just show you a picture of real quick. A human interest story. So it is of a dad that delivered a baby in a Chick-fil-A bathroom. So you can see right there, her name is Gracelyn May Violet Griffin. And she was born in a Chick-fil-A bathroom stall and was wrapped in her dad's Trump 2020 t-shirt after the special delivery Tuesday night. So her birth certificate, and this is from the Star Telegram, will always be a conversation starter because in the spot for location it reads born in Chick-fil-A. So Robert Griffin is the father, and his wife, Fallon Griffin, was already in labor. But she really had to go to the restroom, so at 10:30 p.m., the Chick-fil-A staff members let them in. She was 38 weeks pregnant at the time. And they were not able to get to the hospital quick enough. And so when she started giving birth, the umbilical cord was actually wrapped around the daughter's neck twice. And Robert told his wife to relax while he unwrapped the cord from the baby's neck. And he wrapped the baby Gracelyn in his Trump 2020 t-shirt before the paramedics arrived. And he wrote, "I think it's pretty ironic that a proud conservative Christian family would have a baby in a Chick-fil-A and wrapped in a Trump 2020 t-shirt. Boom, hashtag MAGA." And yes, I see your comment, N8 Bala 23. Who said, Little nugget gets free nuggets for life. So sweet. Thank you again for sharing that story with me, Paul Newcomb. Really, really appreciate that. Yes, and I saw, I think it was you, Brighton Charrier, asking if I have an email. Yes, I do. It's not here, but I'll just tell it to you right now. If you have something that you need to send me, maybe a story idea, you know, different ways that you think Right Side could improve, things like that, you can email me at Alyssa, ALYSSA, you can see my name right here, @RSBN.TV. And yes, Jameson Carpenter, I don't know if I mentioned it, Chick-fil-A was closed at the time during when they needed to go in. So it was really sweet that they opened their doors just for those new parents to come in and, you know, have their baby in a Chick-fil-A. What a crazy story. And Brighton Charrier said, Alyssa, I think this confirms it. Donald is going to get reelected. I definitely hope so. And Guinevere commenting my email. Thank you very much for that. And thank you all so much for tuning in and just for your support. I'm going to wrap it up now, but it's been a very fun night. And tune in again next week for more, of course, as we bring you political events and White House press briefings and President Trump speeches and different things like that. So this has been your nightly news recap, and I'm Alyssa Ashe with RSBN. Thank you so much.